Armand here with your forecast for the week of December 13th, 2021. It's an interesting week in overview. If we look at it, we are building up towards the Gemini full moon, which will be an event in and of itself. We have a lot of stuff going on this week. Now, we come off of the week prior with that Neptune Sun square that was exact on Sunday the 12th. And so the aspects this week will kind of stir that up as we go along now and again. So that Neptunian vibe that began in December, and it sort of wanes a little bit towards until we get to the very end when Jupiter goes into Pisces. That Neptunian vibe is kind of taking a little bit of a backseat this week, but it'll drag on for a little bit. We'll keep getting little reminders of it. That's that sort of unclear, uncertain sense of what's happening, what's going on. The big events for this week, Mercury goes into Capricorn. Mercury goes into Capricorn relatively early in the week, which should help to ground communication a little bit, should definitely help to bring a little bit more of a practical flair to things. Look at that being, roughly speaking, from Wednesday onwards. So that's pretty much a positive kind of thing. And, if you've been nebulous up in the air, can't get a handle on what's going on and so on, Mercury in Capricorn should help. On the other hand, Mars on Monday the 13th has left the sign of Sagittarius, the sign of Scorpio, and moved into Sagittarius, where he will remain for really through the end of January. So let's think about Mars in Sagittarius. First of all, a little bit less of that kind of defensive, protective feeling that we had with Mars in Scorpio. Mars in Scorpio is always trying to, make sure that nothing bad happens, and can try to make sure that nothing bad happens before there's any indication that anything bad will happen. Very, very much playing a sort of aggressive defense. Okay, so that shifts. And in Sagittarius, Mars is certainly more outgoing, more adventurous, more into having, I don't want to say a good time, but, more out there. Right? So, and our energy levels kind of go up. Mars is strong in Scorpio, but the energy is more inverted. In Sagittarius, it's more extroverted. So, we figure how that's going, and you can figure that for yourself. Now, there are some problems with Mars in Sagittarius. This is Jupiter's sign, and it's expansive. It has very much to do with beliefs and belief systems, and so we can get some polarizations with Sagittarian energy. We've been having a lot of polarization with Sagittarian energy. We had it when Saturn went through the sign a few years ago. We had it when, quite a few years ago now, when Jupiter went through the sign. That was one of the sort of side effects of Jupiter in his own home sign. And for the last 18 months, we have had the south node of the moon in Sagittarius. I've spoken about that before. And the thing about the south moon in Sagittarius is the south node of the moon in Sagittarius is that it pulls us towards our belief systems, and we're sort of inclined to go on what we know is true, what we know is right, what we believe is right. And, the facts can come and support that later if we find them. But, the North Node is way out there in Gemini. Why should we go get facts when we already know what the truth is? Why, and it's so much work to get facts, and at the end of the day that they would fit into what you believe anyway. And we know also too that facts, they can be distorted or something. So we will just stay with what we know, what we believe. There's the problem of the South Node in Scorpio. Now, this week, Mars, fiery warrior Mars, will be going over the South Node in Scorpio, really firing up this energy. And so we'll be acting on this energy. So if you thought, wow, things can't get much more polarized, things can't go too much farther apart, Well, I would say to keep your eyes open. The question would be not just how, how much more polarized people can get in terms of their beliefs and in terms of their speech, but in terms of their actions, because Mars has a lot to do with action, and so we see things in extremes. I've encountered this lately. There's this thing out now where you're supposed to drive on the right side of the road, and they want you to stop at red lights, right? And there's a speed limit. There's a limit to how fast you can drive your car. I mean, what sort of Nazi era are we living in, people? What about our precious freedoms? My car, my choice. Why should anybody be telling me what side of the road to drive on? Now, that would be a lot more funny if it wasn't for the fact that people are essentially saying that about all kinds of stuff, you know. And there we're likely to go this week to further extremes, and it's concerning to me, and it should be concerning to you. I'm sure some of you feel exactly that way, and I will have lost a few subscribers, but that's okay. Hey, here's an interesting thing. You can hit the dislike button, but it doesn't show up as a dislike anymore, right? The likes show up, but the dislikes don't. I can see them if I go to the analytics and I look and see what the dislikes are. I can go see them, but I'm not gonna. I don't go to the analytics. So you can dislike it, but it's only for your own exercise. Nobody's gonna see it. You can hit like it. We'll all get to see that, though. That's fine. I just think it's really strange that YouTube has decided that, like, it's not good for us to know that people dislike things. Isn't that a weird kind of situation? I mean, if it's an astrology video or something like that, I think it's a little obnoxious. But I mean, on the other hand, like, what do people say all kinds of crap that really you should be able to dislike if you think there's something wrong with it. But it's just messed up. People, like, they'll listen to, like, some Oscar Peterson playing piano and dislike it or something. It's bizarre. Anyway, I digress. But, Sun, Neptune, Mars, South Node, little digression isn't the end of the world. So we're building up towards the full moon. So it's a pretty active week. We'll have the moon going through the sign of Aries and into Taurus, then into Gemini. So it's a relatively good week to get stuff done, a relatively good week to, try to be a little bit more practical. I would say right around midweek, I would say, the Tuesday, Wednesday type of period, I would say probably just midweek in general, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, pretty good for getting stuff done. Things are a little edgy, with the full moon coming. It's the last little gasp of the eclipse energy that we're seeing. So things will kind of wind down a little bit from that, but it is the full moon. Should be a relatively good weekend for getting out and having some fun, some of those holiday parties, week before Christmas. It's a time when there are a lot of parties and stuff. If you feel safe going out to parties and things like that. The other thing, Venus is with Pluto this week, and Venus was exactly with Pluto on Saturday, I believe, this past Saturday. But Venus is not going to get that far away from Pluto because she is slowing down for her retrograde. That video will be out on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. So subscribe and put the notifications on so that you get reminded of that, or put a mental note in your head. Either way. So Venus is essentially stationing next to Pluto in Capricorn, and then she's going to back up, and then we'll hit again on the way out of the sign later on. We're really looking at quite a bit of time before Venus gets up there. We're going to be deep into February before that happens. Venus retrogrades for about 40 days. So that's a ways away. It's telling us at the beginning, though, that, we're starting this retrograde season with a great deal of intensity because Venus is conjunct Pluto. This isn't a casual kind of retrograde. Can you look back 8 years ago towards the last Venus retrograde in Capricorn? You can. That's okay. It's reasonable to do so, but of course, you're 8 years older and things are 8 years different than they were back then. You could get a little reminder of it by all means, and there may be some resonance in your experience, certainly. But is it going to be the same thing? Well, I mean, let's hope you've changed in 8 years, right? So probably not the exact same thing, but if you've got no other clues, then that's a good thing to look back towards. So we have Venus in Capricorn next to Pluto. We have Mercury entering Capricorns. We have a lot of this sort of Capricornian energy well ahead of the sun getting there on the 21st. Although that's next week already. So sail through the last week of Sagittarius. I would say that it's pretty much anybody's game, whether or not you want to, try to step aside and just sort of avoid all of the chaotic energy, or whether you want to follow Mars in Sagittarius and, be a little quixotic, perhaps. That's Mars in Sagittarius. It's a crusader, but with all this Neptunian energy around, including Mars's eventual square to Neptune on January 11th, it's not necessarily entirely clear. But sometimes you just want to do something. And we'll talk about that next week. Don't forget to watch the Venus video on Wednesday. Bye.